Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I am having last-minute Facebook Marketplace coordinating challenges. Because, of course, they're like, hey, I'm not going to be here this afternoon. Can you come at this time? It's like, yeah, of course. And it's like, oh, actually, no, I can't. So now my partner has to do it. Like, you two aren't connected, so... Well, welcome to those who are watching. We are here today to talk about the book Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord, which was our book checkout book club book month. No, month book. I'm losing my words. Book for the month of May, and we were all just before going live talking about how we always all end up reading it on the off month right before we actually have our live show. So I think most of us finished it relatively recently. And this was, I believe it's Senegalese. I meant to double check. It's Senegalese folktale.
Caribbean author, Senegalese folktales, what I saw. Reference.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to double check too if she was as well Senegalese. Okay, cool. But no, Caribbean. Well, we might as well jump into sort of overall thoughts. We haven't done like a who we are in a while. Do we want to do that, or just like, or like, hey,
No,
my channel is like, I'm not posting right now, but don't worry, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Am I the first person here? Because I am.
Yeah,
to the
right
right
there.
of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah. So first, I'm going to explain that it looks like I'm crying, but I'm actually having an allergy attack because where I live there is crazy smoke from forest fires, and I went outside and did some stuff in the yard, and it just caused me to have this really bad allergic reaction. So I'm just like not feeling 100%. So if you see me shutting off my camera or muting myself, that is why. But I am Sarah. I have a channel called Bright and Bookish, and I haven't posted in a while. I don't know when I'm next going to post, to be honest. It's become a bit of a challenge in my life to get videos out, but I am still going to be part of the Book Checkout Book Club, which we need to plan some things for the future because we have come to the end of a 1-year cycle of this pretty much, which is wild. So yeah, so that is me. This book I did not finish. I think it's unusual for me. I think I've finished all of the other ones that we've read for the book checkout. Yeah, I did, even the ones that I didn't really like. And yeah, I just felt like the book was really good and that I was rushing through it to try and get it done for today, which I didn't think was doing the book justice. So it wasn't that I was not enjoying the book, it was kind of the opposite. I was enjoying it too much to want to rush it because I did not leave myself enough time because it is a short book, and I thought, oh, I can definitely squeeze this in. And then this month I've been in a bit of a slump for the second half of the month, and so I kind of just left it. I only started reading it last night, so I'm not very far in. I think I made it to chapter 10, maybe 11, something like that. So I don't know if that's even halfway through. I couldn't tell you. But I am going to participate in the whole discussion because I'm not too worried about spoilers. Because I think it's a folktale, so like you can't really spoil a folktale because folktales they follow like a pattern. I think that is enough from me. I will pass it over to Cait.
So I'm Cait. My channel's Cait Coy. I also haven't posted in a while, so I need to get back to doing that. I've been in a slump all month, so I think this weekend was the first time I finished a book this month. So just how it goes, but I did the audiobook for it as well. And I assume we're going to talk about ratings later.
We could do it now.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't have a rating. I didn't finish the book.
I had to think about it for a bit. I definitely struggled a little bit with the pacing in this. So I'm more of like a 3.5, maybe 4. I haven't fully decided. But I liked it, and the audiobook was incredible. Like, I think if I hadn't been doing the audiobook, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm Maria from the channel Maria Might Read That, and I too have not posted in a while. We suck. It's a group, except for the Kristens.
Yeah.
But I am actively filming, so I just have been filming like 2-hour-long wrap-ups. So I need to figure out a different way to approach them, because then I just don't want to edit them. So then they just sit on my phone.
I still watch it.
Yeah. So hoping to make a comeback soon. But I am a fantasy reader, although have recently fallen down a historical romance rabbit hole. So I kind of want to make a video about that because that was unexpected. So that was fun. And for this book, I crammed this weekend and I just finished it this morning. I thought I might not make it in time as well. And I agree with Sarah. I do think I went a little faster than I would have liked, but I also would have not crammed until this morning if I'd gone up to like a higher audio speed. But it's just one of those where it's like, it's so beautifully spoken that you have to listen to it. So I definitely didn't give it the time to enjoy, in the sense that like I was listening to it at times when I didn't have things to do. So I was just sitting there and staring at walls. It was like, I got to get through this. Whereas I prefer to be more active with audiobooks, but I still think like the audio, if I was giving it a rating, 5 stars, like the audio itself is incredible. The story, I'm more along with Cait. There were pacing issues for me. I'm sitting at probably like a 3-star for it. And I think that my biggest issues were like the second half. I didn't like the plot. I thought the first half was really beautiful, like kind of humorous, satirical, like fable plot. And then it went in a different direction and I liked that less. And there were things about like the things that it introduced that I thought weren't dealt with on like a nuanced level. There were kind of like decisions that were proposed to our character that I felt like were done in a very like quick way, and then we moved on, that I thought needed more time. So that was one of my issues with it, but I did really like the like listening experience of it.
My name is Kristen Crazy Books. I still post on my channel. And I feel like I'm left all by myself and it's sad.
Kristen's channel is very active. If you're not following,
Yes.
you should absolutely check
I
out
reliably
Kristen's book.
consistent.
And then I look for my friends, and whenever any of these people post, I'm like right there, the first ones, because I get so excited. It doesn't happen very often. Kristen a little bit more lately, but
Sorry, let you down.
I know Cait sometimes, and then I'm like, oh, Cait's posted, yes. But I think that the way that this is told, it's like oral storytelling. So I feel like it's almost, if you can, you have to listen to it. And anybody who hasn't, it is on script. And I just don't think I would have appreciated the tone and narration of it, because I think the narration, it's like you either love or going to hate it. Like I don't think that narration style is going to work for everybody, but it will work better for you if you listen to it. And I'm giving it a 4. I think the pacing issues for me, I saw it, but I think that's just the nature of like a folktale of this kind of storytelling. It's like, and like the self-insert of the narrator could be annoying at times. I'm like, I understand that the narrator itself is a character, and I understand like she's kind of her perception of how things went down. So is it how it actually happened? Are we getting the full story because the narrator's telling a story that she wasn't there for? I'm assuming it's just been passed down. But I know I love the whole thing. I will read more from this author for sure. And I had never heard of Karen Lord until Kristen suggested this. So that's exciting. I had no idea. Yeah, I don't know how I'd missed. And then I was looking at her backlist and added like a bunch to my thing. I don't know how I missed. Because Angela talks about her a lot, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's the one I heard about her from.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched her
I do
videos.
really want to try out
instead.
her sci-fi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
which I think I would
Curious
like to.
World. Yeah.
And I think, is there a new book in that series coming out?
I was just gonna say, I think I'm gonna pick it up this year. I think because I think that there's another book coming out in that series.
Yeah,
The Best of All Possible Worlds. That's that one.
something like that. And I appreciate the length of this one for us.
Yeah.
And that it's a standalone.
It's a standalone. It was our shortest
Agreed.
book and our first standalone. So there we go.
And I still didn't get to
Oh
finish
yeah, was this the first standalone? That's crazy.
Standalone.
You're welcome.
And I haven't continued on with any of the other ones we've read. Well, no, Wayfair, that's a lie. But the other ones, I haven't.
Yeah, I
continued on
haven't.
with the series.
I haven't, but I DNF'd a lot of them, so I'm
You
good.
did.
Yeah.
I did not. I need to get to them.
But you're gonna continue on. Are you gonna continue on with Black Sun?
Nope.
No, Marie didn't
No?
like it.
That was one of my least favorite books last year.
Marie
So
didn't like
nope.
it.
Oh, I forgot that.
I am going to continue with Wayfair. I haven't
Yeah,
yet.
yes, you have to.
Well, I can go. So, yeah, I had like a really weird reading of this where I did actually first pick it up in May, and I think I listened to the first 10 chapters or so on audio, and I really loved the audiobook, but I found that like where Nsigi's like going through like disaster after disaster with like the food stuff was just like a little bit outrageous for me, and it wasn't like the right thing for the moment of where I was at. So I put it down and then like didn't pick it up again until like yesterday, last night, and today, and then I read like the rest of the book. I do wish that I had spaced it out though, because I actually think that I liked the second half of the book better.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with Maria where like it could have been like more nuanced, or like things could have been like explored a little bit more deeply. But I feel like that's like the narrative style where it's like, because it's like this storyteller telling you this story, you're getting like a much more bare bones, read into it on your own time kind of a narration style, which on one hand I really like because it's different and I feel like it really suited the story. But then on the other hand, I think you could also like do this as a retelling and make it like a retelling where it's more of a, I guess, narrative retelling. And I would be interested to read that version as well, where like you're a little bit more in depth with the characters. Yeah.
This one you're definitely like not with the characters. You're like step back, so you're not connecting with them in the way you would normally.
I think that has
very,
to do
very removed
with the like cultural element too, right? Like the storytelling, like Senegalese, I can't say that word. Storytelling is potentially a different way of telling stories than maybe what we're used to in the European tradition, which is I don't know I've never read anything else from Senegal or like I've read some Caribbean authors before that also had the same kind of like the writing style, like Karen Lord's writing style felt like some of the other authors that I have read from the Caribbean, like it had a certain like cadence to it almost as well, even though like the story was taking place in Africa as opposed to in the Caribbean. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting because it feels really different than other stuff. And that's also why I was like, I have to stop. Like, I'm not going to listen to this at 3 times speed because it's ruining it. It's ruining the audio.
And the
I tried to speed it up even like in the last like in the lead up to when I had to start getting ready for this, and I couldn't go over 2 because, and even at 2 times speed I was like, this is kind of ruining it. Like I want it to be like 1.5 maybe, because it was like the narrator was just so perfect.
The best voice,
one of the best like narrator. Yeah, exactly. And way better than what I could have done in my head.
I was going to say, Sarah, I actually found it really accessible. And so for me, the character removed wasn't even an issue, even though usually I like characters that are very like, really forefront of the story. But because it was a fable, I was like, these are kind of the instruments with which to tell us the morals and the like lessons. And therefore, I don't mind that they're more kind of one-dimensional. So for me, that felt like a great way to kind of dip into something that was a different culture for me personally.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like you do have to go into this knowing that it's going to be a distant oral storytelling kind of a fable, because I think all I knew was that it was a retelling. So I almost was picturing like picking up a Beauty and the Beast retelling, picking up a Rapunzel retelling, whatever, where like it's more like, is it narrative the right phrasing there, where it's like somebody has like put you in as like first person or third person POV of the main character and you're experiencing things,
telling you a story.
Yeah. Which again, I would reread this fable in that format as well. That would be cool. But I did really appreciate this, and I do wish that I had read it a little bit more slowly. I feel like the moral lessons and whatever, I feel like they would have maybe sunk in if you had read it a little bit spread out. But I could be wrong. Ratings. I don't even remember that I have to do this every time. I'm like, oh my god. like between 78 and 82.
Which
And I
is
think
what
we're out of 100
like
now.
a high, it's a high
It was on a scale of 10 before.
Oh,
Next time, I hope you come out. You're like between a dragon and a
7.8.
unicorn.
Oh, I thought we were just going up by, so like it's like out of 10 and then out of 100, and next time it'll be out of 1,000. 842.
I give the number that feels right for the book, whether it's on a scale of 5, 10, or 100. Okay. Probably like I would have said like a high 3 or low 4, but low 4 seems silly because like a 4.0, and I'm like, yeah, but like a low 4, So.
Like a 3.75.
Then the 100-point scale makes more sense. Like 82 is very different than a 4. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
But I do wish that I had given it more time. I wish that I didn't rush it. And I had no reason to rush it. I just was reading other things.
This
I
felt
think
like
it's very different for all of us, which is something like before we had books that were like out of some of our comfort zones, whereas I think this one is probably like everyone's normal reading.
It's more literary than
like,
what we would normally pick up.
Yeah, this is like what I would read with my like in-person book club.
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah,
like the kind of like we want to, read something from like a different culture, from a different perspective, like very, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like fantasy, right? Like even though it does have fantastical things that happen, but that's not it. Like I don't think calling it fantasy really makes sense. Because it is more like literary. Yeah.
Like magical realism, sort of. But I know that's very
and too like fable makes sense to be in the fantasy category, but it is different. It is distinct.
Yeah.
But it's like more fable than a lot of the other stuff that I've read that would be called fable. That people say this is like a fable.
Well, because they usually mean like a modern fable, and this is like an actual
more
like
authentic. Yeah.
This is.
I have a thought because we're saying we wouldn't really see it as fantasy, but like for example, the Winter Night trilogy, that is pretty much historical plus like Russian elements of like their cultural kind of fables, I would say, like their kind of creatures that exist, which I would compare to this. And so it's like that one is treated as fantasy. So is there a reason this one we're not seeing as? I don't know.
I think it's narrative voice for me because this feels very much like the fables and fairy tales in terms of storytelling wise, whereas like Winter Night just feels like historical fantasy. Like it is retelling things, but it feels like kind of more standard historical fantasy to me in voice.
See, I'd put them in, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I'd put them in the same category, but just like lengthwise different. Because we have the same interaction with like people of the other worlds as well.
I've never read Winter Night, so I don't know.
It's third person for Winter Night.
Wonder if you would like it. Yeah. I had a feeling it was.
Sarah would like it.
Winter. That's the.
I feel like it's. I feel like it's
Spinning Silver
enough that you.
The Bear and the Nightingale.
And Spinning Silver and like really great female characters. I think you would like it.
I love it.
I haven't read that.
It's really good.
Even
as far as historical fantasy, it's probably top.
Even if book 1 doesn't knock it out of the park for you, you have to read at least book 2. Because that's where Vassia like comes into her own.
And the first one was very like storytelling vibes, and then the second one is more like historical fiction kind of plot. Yeah, I think you would enjoy that. We need to have you report back.
I think it's on my TBR. It's just never been like a very high up on my TBR kind of thing. So
I love Cassidy's comment.
Yeah. So we're opposites. We're book nemesis.
I hate it. I'm terrible.
I was like middle ground on it. I didn't love it and I didn't hate it. So it could be. I also think you could love it because we've had a few like that.
Yeah. I mean, like I've definitely like had it on my radar. It's one of those ones that like a lot of people have read, and I feel like I missed the boat because I wasn't on
Read
YouTube
it in
at
the
the time when
winter.
everybody was reading
Wait.
it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Wait and
Yeah.
I
read
want to
it
ask
in the winter
Cassidy,
for
since
sure.
you read the first, I think you read the second too. Do you think that was like fantasy, or like how would you categorize that? Because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, these two books feel very like the same category of fantasy to me, like the outskirts of it.
See, I've only read the first one, and it was not very fantasy. I feel like I've heard the fantasy.
It's the same thing where it's like those
So I
cultural
can't.
elements, right?
Yeah.
I need
Just
to look at my
longer.
Goodreads and see if I can compare this book to anything else I've ever
Yeah, because
read.
it's hard.
Like,
How do you comp this book to something? It's so
Yeah.
unique in voice. But I would be
Because-
curious to try some. Karen Lord, I'm guessing her other books aren't told this way. I'm not sure.
well, sci-fi. I don't think you can tell
Sci-fi.
sci-fi this
But
way.
you never know.
Yeah.
Home for
I
the
don't
Wild, but
know.
is kind of a fable in a sense. Like it's not told in the same like
So-
style, but it has like a lesson to
The
it.
morals, yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah.
Which
That one's a
one?
bit more
Sorry, I missed it.
heavy-handed than
Home
this.
for the Wild built, if we're talking like sci-fi. But yeah, it's I wouldn't quite lump it in the same. Like it has a moral it's trying to establish.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
Yeah.
the Nevo ones actually. I know Sarah's read those. What do you think of
Yeah.
those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
would definitely
yeah.
compare those.
Those
The-
feel
fable,
more
storytelling.
fantastical though. Like I feel like
novellas.
those
They
because of
do
the
feel
the like setting is more fantastical.
Yeah, those are not our
Um,
world. Mhm.
But absolutely the way that the storytelling element, like
Yeah.
and the insertion of the narration and
The
stuff.
narrator.
Yeah,
I would say if you like that, read this, and it vice
Yeah,
versa.
that's a good
actually,
one.
Now that I think about
That's
it,
a good one.
I'm trying to think of other books because I do feel like I've read books where there's been like a narrator, but now I'm struggling to.
I know. You have to pull up your Goodreads.
Yeah.
I mean,
Trader's
Guy, you're-
Blade makes me think of this too.
They played
Where we
around.
have like that fourth wall breaking.
I
Mhm.
guess, but
I
that
do
like
like that.
here, but the here. Let me tell you. Here, let me tell you my story. I see as different from. I'm a storyteller.
Some stories.
Let me
That's
tell
true.
you Pama's story. Yeah,
I
I
agree
agree
with
with
this.
like
Yeah.
way too broad. Yeah.
I feel like now I'm thinking that like this is a subset of fantasy I didn't think about before, and I just lumped these into
Together.
fantasy. But I like the more I think about it, the more I do feel like this is a subgenre that like nobody categorizes together.
And
But
like we want to categorize everything into subgenres. Like, what would the subgenre of this
Yeah.
be? It's so specific.
well, like
Like,
magical
fables.
realism is one of those like subgenre
Fables, yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of comes to mind. I'm just
right,
trying to look
but,
at
like
my
magical
Goodreads.
realism to me is like when you don't, which I guess this one kind of falls in, but it's like when you magical things are happening but no one comments on them.
Yeah, the talking animal or the talking bugs. Like
Yeah, but, like,
nobody's
in this
like
one,
that's
you're,
total,
like,
that's
out of nowhere.
classic.
Right, but explanations are given. Like in this one, it's like, oh, they probably like woke up and thought that they attributed it to like hallucinations by like from drinking. And so there's like ways that you can like notice things in the world that are different, but you have explanations for. But then in magical realism, the few that I've read that I've like hated are where like things happen. Like there was one that I read where I didn't realize it was magical realism until there was a bird that they wrote in Sharpie on, and I was like, "Isn't that terrible to the bird?" And then it like then they mention it erases later, and then I was like, "Oh, this is just reality in this world, but like is fantasy." And that's what I think of, like something where it's like no one
Well-
comments on how things are strange and weird; they just exist.
Well, that's like the Night Circus and the other one that she wrote have like that magical realism element
Yeah.
where like things are just like weird and people like accept that things are weird.
Yeah. Whereas
Or
this, I
like
feel like
Piranesi,
it's
like
hide it.
Piranesi, there's just like weird shit happening, and like those are the kinds of like magical realism books that I think of, which this does feel different. But I think like yeah, it's just because it's the folklore aspect. I've never read Neil Gaiman's and I can't say the name of the spider. Anansi, is that the name of the spider?
Yeah.
Anansi Boys. Has anybody ever read that one by Neil Gaiman?
You've read a lot of Neil Gaiman, haven't you?
It's one of the few of his I haven't actually read. It's on my to read list, but I feel like that would be maybe potentially also similar. But I mean that also shares like the African folklore element, which is weird when you think about like why the hell was Neil Gaiman writing about African folklore?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that one. I can picture it, but I didn't know anything about that one.
I'm trying to think like
the thing with this book is there's like not a lot to talk about because it's just like so I feel like it's not the best book club.
I do have a spoiler question.
Oh,
Like if we're going into spoilers, we good? Yes.
Yeah, I'm good with spoilers.
I feel like.
Are you okay, Sarah, with a spoiler?
I am totally okay with
You're
spoilers.
good.
Can we talk about the epilogue? Because I feel like I didn't
the
understand.
epilogue. That was going to be my one question about the what was the epilogue? Do we need that?
Is the kid one that she had with the Indigo Lord, or is the kid the Indigo Lord in disguise, or like what are the? Is the kid not connected to the Indigo? I've re-listened to the epilogue twice, and I'm still confused.
I feel like it was they were being reborn as the kids, because the other kid made me think of the trickster spider, just the way they talked about him. So I think they were like being reborn. It was still their kids that they had, but their spirits, or however you want to call it, was the way that I read
What did she say about them having redemption?
She was giving them a second
something about redemption.
I don't remember the exact wording.
And there was a big focus on like who they remind them of. Yeah.
I like that, Cait, because I was also thinking reborn, but I didn't think about the trickster. So I was like, maybe just the Indigo Lord was put into, but still retained his memories. Like he clearly is like,
right.
She knows. But then there was a weird comment because what confused me, there's like a comment where the father says, Kwame comments on that fact, like he's like, your eyes are from me, your nose are from me, but like your skin, that purple is like, no, none of us. But then in the kitchen later with the mom is like, the kid is like, if I could choose what color skin to have, I would have indigo. And so it's like, so you or do you not have purple skin? That's where I was like,
I missed the purple comment, but I thought that from the fact that he was like inside, that they were doing all that, I got the sense that he had albinism.
I got the sense he was connected to the Indigo Lord, and like that becomes his way to help.
I figured that, but it was
yeah. I remember
albinism would prefer purple skin. Maybe
when they introduce the Indigo Lord, like they make a big deal about the fact that he has chosen that color skin, and then like it talked about how like people aren't sure why, whether it was like to hide some defect. That's as far as I got in the book. That's what they were talking about why the indigo skin.
Well, you'll have to listen to the epilogue now and like tell us what you think
after. Well, I'm gonna finish the book. I am gonna finish the book.
I listened to it twice, and I was still
in
like,
the Discord.
Yeah, because
I just thought.
I mean, maybe it's meant to be ambiguous.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think a lot of epilogues are that way.
Mm-hmm. I guess it was kind of like an add-on, like.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah,
because the ending before that felt like an ending, and she was like, okay, I'll end this story, and then it's like epilogue. I'm like, what?
And she even said, she's like, I was given permission to like add this extra section or something. Yeah. What did you all think of like the overarching like moral, I guess, about choices and like chaos and chance and all that?
It made me, so this is kind of a weird comparison, but the whole, especially the second half, made me think of Hogfather in terms, like by Terry Pratchett, in terms of the way it's looking at like humans and the way humans respond to different situations and the way they can be selfish, but also selfless, and kind of that choice that humans get to make. So it was interesting to me to see some of the same like thematic exploration in here as in like something by Pratchett. So I liked that part of it.
Oh, I'm curious what you didn't love about the second half as much, Maria.
Well, I thought that it could also be like I was rushing through it, so it wasn't like I was like just finished already. So it could be that like became the feeling I have toward it as well. But my biggest thing was like they present all these situations and then try and make it like the answer is an obvious one, and that's where I felt a bit off. Like all the lessons were like he takes her to the ship and he's like, hold off, wait and see. The fact that 2 people died means that like later this one guy who like witnessed his dad saving his enemy, he then has that compassion he carries forward and like saves other lives. But it doesn't raise the question of like, is it right to stand by and let 2 deaths happen now because you could prevent more in the future? Like it doesn't really present anything. It's just like, this is the right way to do this. And then when they go to like the plague town and the 2 lovers like slit their throats, he's just like, this is like, there's so many possibilities. You really can't do anything at all. And it felt weird because it's like, we know the chaos stick helped save the life in the drown, like when the boy was almost drowning in the river. So we know it can do things, but then it never does anything when they're doing all these lessons. It's just like, these situations will work out how they work out, and they might even have like good net in the future because of how they went. But they're not really influencing anything, and they're not presenting it like a complicated moral dilemma of like, do you intervene? Do you let it happen? Do you like let humans make the choices here? Is there nothing you can do regardless of whether or not you intervene? Like maybe you using the chaos stick prompts the lovers and slit their throats. But like there's none of that discussion, and that's what I would really have wanted from it. I felt like it was just like a very black and white approach to it, personally.
It's interesting to me because I felt like I agree on the ship part, but I think on the lover's part, it felt like he was showing her that sometimes like you can't just fix it with the stick, and that attempting to help can actually just lead it down a different path that you didn't really expect it to take. Because I think she does try to help with the lovers and does not foresee the fact that the woman doesn't want to live after, with the effects the plague has had on her beauty, essentially, and that she kills herself. So it's something, it felt like he was trying to show her that she can't really control how that works. So that felt a little bit nuanced to me. Like, I don't think they delved super far into it, kind of like touched on it, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I saw it that way until they talked about burning the town, and then it went back to like, okay, so clearly the only logical solution is to just burn the whole thing, ignoring the fact that like the embers potentially burn past the quarantine part.
Yeah,
And
no, I
also
agree
ignoring
with
the
that
fact
part.
that like people, it's just shown to us that if you have the plague, you might survive and like make it through. But let's just burn everyone because that's the greater. Like I think that's where it lost me, because I was on the same page as you up until
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, I agree with
I
that.
see that.
This is making me want to finish
Yeah, this
reading the
one's tough
book.
to talk about.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Kristen, with an E, you said that you liked the second part more. So thoughts?
Yeah, I think I liked the interplay between, what was his name? The Chaos. What did she call him? The Chaos
Ron
Lord?
is
or-
the name he took as the
Ron.
Lord.
Chance?
Did he not have any? Yeah, Chance. Oh, sorry, I have the window open. I don't know if you can hear the party music in the background. It's like graduation season for the Danes, and they do this like crazy truck thing. I'll tell you later. I don't want to explain now. But I liked the interplay between the two of them, even though like I do think like, yeah, things went fast, and I think that that's why a slower read where you like kind of him and Han, I almost picture like, would a storyteller like pause and like ask questions of the audience, a la Sorsha in Daughter of the Forest. Yeah, no, I liked when the two, it wasn't the direction that I thought it was going to take. I thought it was going to be him like scheming and like coming up with all these like trickstery things and situations and traps that she would fall into. And it was like he kind of decided right away, like, you know what, this isn't the right way to go about this. Here, let's just. So I thought that was interesting. I do think that, yeah, I liked the interplay between the two of them. And there were some things that I thought were a little bit subtle. I can't for the life of me think of what they are right now. But
I could see why you wouldn't love the first half as much with the husband and all that
yeah, it felt a little bit gimmicky.
Yeah, I
It's like,
felt.
oh no, I've fallen into this mortar and pestle, and I'm
Every 2
stuck in
seconds,
it because
I have to go get help. Yeah.
But that's the way that, like, when you look at oral storytelling and you look at, like, I don't know a lot about storytelling in Africa, but I know I have listened to Indigenous elders in where I live. So they're mostly Anishinaabe and Cree elders who tell stories. And like when you tell stories about the trickster, who is, what is the name of the trickster here now? I'm forgetting. I'll think of it in a minute, I'm sure. But like, the stories sound outrageous. Like, okay, so I heard a story from an elder about a man it was about a man and his wife, and the man was just a giant penis, and like literally the whole story is told straight face, where like the man is just a penis, and it's like there's a morality to it, but like on the face of it the story is ridiculous, but like
They're
there's a
over the
whole
top outrageous.
reason for why, and like so the over the topness is part of the storytelling tradition. Like I was not surprised at all by that. Like I really like, I was kind of sad when you get to the end of the Nsige stuff and it's like he's not really the main like villain in this story. Like he was just there to help what's her name again? Pama?
Mama.
Mama?
To help Pama, get through that first hurdle. And I'm like, wait, we're not gonna get any more Nsige? I thought Nsige was like I thought that was interesting. And like yeah, the very like things coming in threes, like there were 3 bad things that happened. Like that number has a lot of meaning in a lot of different cultures, and like I thought it was interesting too, like the way that the marriage, like she didn't want to be married to him, so she just went home to her parents.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I'm just not going to talk about the fact that I, left my husband, and it's like people are just like, okay, well, what's up with that? But nobody's like deaf to the woman who left her husband.
She
Like
wasn't
it felt
the
very
talk of the town or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
No,
And-
there was talk of the town.
but
it
gossip,
wasn't that.
but not
It
like
wasn't
There was
censure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a
Yeah.
scandal.
Yeah, not censure. Yeah,
No.
that's for
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
for-
Yeah.
I like
And
the
I- no, I
reputation
get
too of
that-
like
Yeah.
sorry, go
Once
ahead.
they met him, they understood, I think. So it was like, oh, we get
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, that was interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I get the outrageous thing. It was just like when I was listening to it, like all straight through, I was just like, oh, again and again. It was just like
It is always
so
good.
outrageous that it was like
Like, listen to a
I wasn't in
chapter.
the right mood for it.
It reminded me of
listen
like
to a chapter at a time kind of
a
thing.
Shakespeare
where-
drama almost though.
Yeah.
Like I think it has that level of like humor, and like you could see it on a stage of like the audience just laughing, and then there's the moral underneath of like that level. So I really liked the exaggeration. I think I agree that like that's what is meant to be. Yeah. And I liked the like Sarah was talking about the threes, like there's that repetitive of like Nsige saying like don't act like you don't know me, and just like I liked the way that was all like the cadence of it too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the way that it wraps up in the end where like they talk about how his hunger might have come from like something different and bigger in his soul that he was.
Yeah, I appreciated that we circled
Yeah.
back. He wasn't just like a mockery in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
Mhm.
Pama never
understood
makes fun
him
of him.
more.
Like
No.
she tries to
Yeah.
hide the fact that he's a fool,
Yeah.
which is like I thought that was really interesting because it told us a lot about Pama's character in terms of like even though she was miserable living with this man and literally ran away from him, and he's still like chasing after her because he has this insatiable hunger, like, and yet she still is like doing everything to try and make it so people won't like think he's a mockery, whereas she could have
Just
been
left
like,
him in that
look at
thing.
this fool,
Yeah.
and like and not had to do anything, and like because he's just he's a walking disaster. And but I did think it was interesting too that like her family also understood, like her mother, like when he's got his head stuck in the thing and she's like, oh, he's trying to get my wedding ring, and then her mom comes up and is like, your wedding ring is still on, quickly
your
drop
ring,
it on
drop
the
ring.
ground.
Yeah.
But-
You know
Yeah.
what? It was when he ate the whole goat, the whole live goat. I was just like,
he
what?
cooked it.
He cooked it.
cooked
barbecued
it.
And then he went to go kill something else. It wasn't enough.
Did he cook it?
I just like
He cooked it. He
I
cooked
like
it.
his
He did.
monologue where he kept talking about like, oh, they must have eaten. Like he doesn't look at how much food there is. He just like gets in his head about how he's been hurt and victimized.
Yes.
Yes.
So
There was probably more maize in this
Corn,
basket.
just like your own. There's no saving you because you're just gonna turn any situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that he thinks like he's mad. He's literally done eating the goat, and the peacock shows up to like pick at the bones, and he's like, "No, those are my bones." I want, like, kills the darn peacock. It's like,
I know, I'm
really,
so mad.
like you were about to go
The
kill a little
town-
lamb, like.
Not the town peacock, the beloved peacock of the town.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I did like how like things came back around. Like the trickster
Yes.
spider came back into it. Kwame came back into it. I liked how like the chance of how he found her the second time of him of like when he's having that exchange with the sisters where they're like, he's like, why didn't you tell me that there's like a disgraced, disgruntled husband? Like, you know, like, and they're like, no, it's not. It doesn't have to do with him. Don't worry, it doesn't have to do with. Meanwhile, she's. So
And then he
I
finds her
liked
there.
that like circular.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I liked the end a lot. I think the middle is where I got bogged down, where it makes the switch from Unsige to the kind of slightly different storytelling that she's doing in the second half. And I struggled to kind of keep up with that because I really liked the beginning, but then that transition was kind of rough for me, but then turned it around at the end. So it was kind of up and down.
Yeah, there's definitely a switch there.
Agreed.
I
Yeah.
only got up to the point where the like Indigo Lord, the T name, I can't remember, where he like shows up in town right as Palma's leaving
Taran?
town.
Oh yeah, like I think you're right. Like at the moment.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
I think after that point is when it like changed for me the most.
Yeah.
But I like
I
the spirit
feel like-
thing, like having to trade bodies and being like, can I borrow your body? And like the people being like, yes, okay, like I'll go to sleep here in the grass, like the little girl, like
The little girl.
for like a week.
A little girl. Yeah. This is
That was
nitpicking, but I did have problems with the scene about the little girl coming to Palma and like trying to like teach her about the chaos stick because it's the other zombie in disguise. But then they have that conversation about like boys are allowed to swim and girls are not.
Yes,
and are there.
This also bothered me.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially
No,
because then
that's-
it's like
that
the boy
was-
falls in the river, and the response is still, "See, girls shouldn't be allowed."
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
It
didn't
would
know.
have been even worse for you. Yeah.
Which
No, that
just-
was weird.
yeah.
Well,
That
there was a
really
comment
weird
too
on
about
that.
the little girl being too like precocious, and that like there was one thing about like, oh, hopefully like she
hoped
grows
that
out of
they
that
shut that
like,
down by
yeah.
another 6 years.
by the time
or something.
she's
You're like,
12. Yeah, and but I
Yeah.
think that's cultural, right? Like
Cultural, yeah.
the roles of men and women and where we see like that kind of stuff. I think there's a. I try to not put my own cultural beliefs on, especially because it is fiction,
Yeah,
right? Like,
that's a good point.
but it is, it does speak to, and I like even the treatment of children in general is very different from what I know of like Senegal is West African, right? Is that right? I don't know a lot about Senegal, but like West African parenting is very different. The way kids are treated and like the expectations and things. So
Well, there was like the comment about like don't address me so disrespectfully. So like definitely saw that. Yeah.
I
And I think like the gender stuff. is
I
kind of-
always assume with fables that they're historically set as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess I don't know that for a fact. There wasn't anything particularly distinctive, but
There
Yeah.
were weird comments about the city over having technology or something, like something about the city having
described one city
communication.
as a
But then they
Oh.
traveled like by like horse.
Horse and
Yeah.
donkey. So there
And it
wasn't
wasn't like a very
cars.
specific comment, but it made me think that like maybe they were further along than his super historical, but the setting
Right.
we were in was like was more rural. So I wasn't sure about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I think with fables too, it kind of like it happens out of time in a way too, right? Like it could be any time.
Yeah.
Because also like there's no mention of like bigger world events to help you
No.
situate in time as well. So
And the way it is like this is a narrator telling us a story. Did the story really happen, or was this
Yeah.
just? You know what I mean? So it's not
Yeah.
really set in any time because it's not real.
yeah.
No,
I like-
it's not, but yeah.
That it like was referencing other stories too that like we'd obviously don't have, but it's like acting as if we have these like love stories and like these big poets,
Yeah.
poems, and like
I was gonna say I think it would be really cool to read this if you did know the
The folk.
Cultural
folklore,
cultural
yeah.
context. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously the sister and the poet is like a story that
probably something really famous. Yeah.
I do feel that a little bit with other retellings from other cultures that I've read. I can't think of. I'm sorry, my memory is so horrible lately. But there's been other ones as well where I felt like I feel like I would have gotten more out of this if I knew like the original story that they were referencing. And so I always feel like bad that I don't know the cultural context, even though you want to read more like retellings from different places, but there's still that little like it doesn't quite hit in the same way maybe than if you did. But then that being said, it's also a way to like learn some of the stories.
Yeah, that's right. That's when I started.
I didn't know about.
I like. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta do that more.
Yeah.
Weirdly, it didn't like strike me that these could exist. Like I just assumed they were other fictional like stories that they were referencing that like we were. So I didn't even think to look that up, to be honest. I just thought they were made up.
Made up. They might be too. We don't.
Yeah, definitely could be.
But I kind of hope now that like that love ballad is actually a thing.
I actually assumed.
Yeah.
I know. I was thinking when I was reading this, I was like, I'm enjoying this, but this is not a book that is going to be a lot to say.
No.
There's not a lot to say about this.
You can't like pinpoint like big plot twists to unpack or like
and you
character moments.
Oh, this character really finds my.
I did like our main character a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that it wasn't like a chosen one or like she has some kind of magical power. She was just given this stick because she's a decent person. And she could be trusted with it. So kind of like
she was given the stick because she couldn't hear or was able to ignore the whisperings of the
whisperings,
zombie.
But was that explained? Like,
yeah, when she gets the stick, before she gets the stick, that's how they decide that they're going to give her the stick, because there's I can't remember. It's like a grasshopper or a locust or something that says something to her, and she doesn't respond, and then. Is it the trickster who had the stick, I think? And the other zombie who had the stick to begin with? Who stole the stick from the
elders? What was her name?
Patience. I was assuming it was
Patience. Yeah. Oh, you have.
I'm not sure. It's not really clear.
It's not named.
It's not clear at the beginning.
Not made clear.
They're not named. They're not named until the end.
Yeah. So the part of the book that I was reading, it was
from you.
Unclear who had the stick, but there was a conversation, and it was like, meanwhile, these two, are having this conversation, and then it talks about how, oh, look, like Pama either can't hear or can ignore
us.
And so that's how we know that she is the one to give the stick to. So like there was an element of like, not necessarily the chosen one, but there was like a specific reason for why they chose her to have the stick.
Yeah, but I agree.
I actually thought that was going to play a bigger role too. Like it's interesting that her whole thing with the chaos stick is just that she's going to places with the guy and not really using it ever.
Yeah, it's not like really.
Spoiler alert, gives it back to him. So
that's what made it like not super.
At that point, he's learned his lesson.
Yeah,
that felt like a weird.
She's not like I have to fulfill my destiny, kind of.
Yeah, or like I am now the lord of this lady of this.
Well, but does the Chaos Lord then? Does the Indigo Lord guy? Does he like learn a lesson at the end too?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it's more about him learning a lesson than her necessarily.
Yeah.
Because they make a big deal when he's introduced.
Kind of like softens. Yeah, he's a villain.
Well, even the title, it's like redemption in Indigo, so like it's his redemption.
Yeah. Because they definitely make a big deal about how like he's kind of elevated himself above the other spirits, and how he he has this big hall that he creates, and he's given himself a title, which they don't do, and he can't be bothered to tell the truth, so instead of avoiding the truth, he gets humans to tell lies for him, and like there's all this stuff about how he's just like kind of separated himself. And so I wonder if that's more
that's one of the things that I feel like falls apart the more you look at it, because like his redemption is so fast, and it like just by seeing her for a few moments.
I think a lot of time passed, though.
Yeah, but like his redemption, like if I were to pinpoint it, I see it as like when he takes her to the icy mountain, her feet are cold, and then later he's like, okay, let's bring you somewhere to help you get like, and he starts caring. And then he starts
and he does kind of switch, like, I can see I just can't take it from you, so here, let me convince you that I'm worthy.
That I mean well, and he's not like doing it in a tricky way. He actually genuinely is like, let me show you. but again, it's like this is the Fable thing. That's why I think like it
Yeah.
works for me, because you
Yeah, it
don't
just
look at
works
it
for
that
me.
specific. Yeah, you don't look at it like that closely. It's like
Yeah.
it just is a nice story.
Yeah, like I don't think you're supposed to pick it all apart and for it all to be logical. Like it's just
Yeah.
not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because Cassidy's comment, is this the only one that we've all kind of at least had good
so.
feelings on? I think it
So we've all given 3 stars or above.
Might be.
I'm confident
yeah.
Sarah will still still enjoy it in the end.
I think I'll probably give it a 3.5 or a 4 is my guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's not one I would recommend to Cassidy. No.
No, but like I would say I would never have read it separately of this.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
probably
same.
wouldn't have finished it separately of this, but like I'm happy I read it. Not saying Cassidy should read it, but like I think it's
Yeah.
one
No,
where
That's kind of the whole point of this book club. When
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
had the
push
idea for
yourself.
this book club
That was my
like,
whole list.
yeah, we wanted to
My
find
whole
things
list
that
were
would
things
push
that
us.
were a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah.
I mean, I
And having-
definitely would have read this outside of the book club. Like, I don't know that this necessarily pushed me as far because I have
Yeah.
read a lot of literary
Mhm.
stuff in the past, but there's other stuff that was on this list that pushed me like throughout the year that has pushed
Yeah.
me. So I think that it's
For me, it's just
been
I
good.
don't think it would ever been on my radar. So I'm happy.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it was on my radar from Angela. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, that's no, same from Angela. Yeah, and I mean, like, so having just for those who are watching, the other ones that were on my list,
Yeah,
if
I
I
forget.
can remember them.
did you make a video about
Did
it?
you read
I
Dark
did do a
Apprentice?
video. Yeah, this was I did read Dark Apprentice.
How
Yeah,
was
and
it?
I'm reading Light from Uncommon Stars. Dark Apprentice was not what I expected.
In
Oh,
a
no.
good
I'll
way
say
or
that.
bad way? Okay.
You're
That
doing a
makes me feel
review,
better
right?
that I
You're gonna
didn't
give us
read
a
You have to
it.
do a review.
I was
Yeah,
excited
I'm
about
gonna
that.
I gotta film a review. So the other ones were that I can remember: Dark Apprentice by Val Neal, which is a mentor-mentee with someone on the autism spectrum and a sociopath. Set in the real world. I think that's important to know.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I feel like I knew that peripherally, but was like, that doesn't fit in with my expectations for this book. And so just like didn't acknowledge that as a fact. Light from Uncommon Stars.
Vita Nostra.
Oh yeah, that one scared me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Vita
I'm trying to
Nostra.
go back through our
I don't know
chat.
because
Those
it
are
was beat out and I was.
Those are the two, yeah. And I did make this was my first, I'm doing a new video series where people get to pick a book that I read every month. And that was the first one that I did was pick one of the vetoed book club book picks. All the Murmuring Bones. That one I think would have been less outside of the comfort zone.
That's been on my TBR for ages.
Yeah,
I know it's that was when I was
Yeah.
scanning through trying to find a book that was on your.
We mentioned that one with
on
Hannah.
your
I owned.
pre-existing
And Hannah was like, "This is
yeah.
my book," so we're pushing that one to other people now.
And then the last one was In the Dream House, Carmen Maria Machado.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I could not have done
I
that.
have since.
Scary.
Yeah, good call then. Yeah. So I have
think I
since
vetoed
read
that one 'cause
Dark
I've read it.
Apprentice. Yeah, I've since read Dark Apprentice, and I'm almost done Light from Uncommon Stars. And I will say that I don't think we would have had as good of a time with Dark Apprentice, and I think we would have equally had a strange, difficult to talk about time with Light from Uncommon Stars.
That's what we get for the reviews.
Has everyone else read that? Has anyone else read that one?
No,
It's
but
on my
TBR.
TBR, but I'm
So weird. It's so weird and different. I don't
That's
even know how to
another
describe
Angela
it, like, how to talk about
recommendation,
it.
isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard other people talk about it, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
She's the
That's
main
where I heard
person
about it
I've
first.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we definitely need a different way to choose books for our next year of book club. I think we need to be more conscious of books that are like starting series, because like we said, we did that a lot this year. And yeah, I think that like while that can be really fun, it also leads to like having all these books hanging out that like you either have to DNF the series like Maria did with all of them, or then like you keep going, but then like you kind of want to talk about them again. So we did create some space in the Discord for that, but I don't think anybody else. I'm the only one who's read a sequel. I read the second book in the what is that series called? The Unconquerable Sun series. I can't remember. Sun Chronicles, maybe?
Kristen
Yeah, it is
finished
Sun
the
Chronicles.
whole Wayfarer
I read all the
series.
Wayfarer
She
series.
needs
I
her
did.
Oh,
due for that.
Okay. Yes.
Amazing.
But did you post anything in the Discord? Did you create a
I
channel
don't think
for that?
I think there are they
Yeah.
channel for that? I don't know.
We discussed like which ones were your favorite and like if I should continue, but it was just general.
And I said you should just read the last one and see
Yeah,
if
that's
you don't like the last one, it's not worth it.
still
Yeah.
the plan, yeah.
Yeah.
So have
Who
you read
are
all
crossover
of your-
characters in the last one?
In all of the other ones, they're all loosely connected to Ash, and that's it. Like, is that his name? The captain from the
the
first book?
captain?
The captain.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Is
there's a
one of them
different
set
character
on the
in each of
planet
them.
with like those two brothers and the sister?
Which two brothers?
No,
No,
they're-
they're really different. They're
Oh, where they go? Oh, like the
No.
teenage girl
Yeah,
and the
I
two
liked
older
them.
brothers.
I
Yeah,
would have
they were
read
kinda
that.
fun.
I would have
Yeah.
read that. I would have.
Yeah.
there's one that's like, I can't say, following a character from the first book that we saw in the first book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
think you know who
the.
that is.
Isn't that where they go and they buy the illegal AI thing from?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
So that's the second one.
That's
The
in the
third
first
one
book,
is
yeah.
set on like an intergalactic space, but it's humans. So it's about
it's like the
humans in
humans
space.
culture they mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, so how
Sounds
they
boring.
Which was my least favorite. It was good, but it was my least favorite because I don't care about the humans so much.
What
Yeah.
about Sussex? Was there any more?
humans?
There's people from her culture, but not her specifically.
Oh, okay.
And then
In the fourth one.
the fourth one is at like a service station, and the power goes out. So all these people from different cultures, species that don't get along, and they have like different histories and stuff, are stuck there.
Oh, that does
So you
sound
don't-
the most interesting one.
So
Yeah.
you don't get
Yeah.
any more Rosemary? You don't get any more Dr. What's his name? Dr. Cook? Was that what his name
That's
was?
the
No, that's
thing.
wrong.
Dr. Chef.
They're
Like,
mentioned.
Vegan
Dr.
theory.
Chef? Like, why?
No.
Why would she do that?
The last one has Ash's like the girlfriend.
Mm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh.
She's
didn't
one of the
care
main
about her.
characters of that is stuck there. So that's connected to Ash. The other one, the one on the human, has his sister,
Okay.
and then the other one has the AI. So it's all just
Okay.
people who mention Ash and know Ash, and that's the only.
Interesting.
Seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Poor
Lame.
choices.
Yeah.
Chambers.
I
Yeah,
love
I feel like she could have gone different, but like I don't remember what his name was. The bear guy.
No, these characters, they're off. They're things mentioned briefly in like the third one, but they're just off doing their thing. They're not. Nope.
Man, it
Loved
just
it.
feels like a missed opportunity for some of those storylines that she set up. But I agree with what Maria said. One of the other times we were talking about this, we're totally not talking about the
Spoilers anymore. We're
Or
talking about the future of the book club.
Always
Redemption in Indigo. Solid, okay book. Solid, good,
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Really good audio.
Yeah,
If you're
I
gonna
read
read
it.
it,
Read
yeah,
it
excellent.
Listen to
slowly.
the audio.
Audio.
Listen to the audiobook.
Give yourself time,
2
yeah.
chapters at a time.
Yeah.
Takeaways. But what Maria was saying the one time we were talking about it, where when we were vetoing stuff, we wind up with the least objectionable, more rather than like the
The one
one
we
that's
should-
going to have like the biggest impact.
The most exciting.
The most
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
So I feel like instead of making a
That's
list
fair.
though, like instead of doing it where like we each have a month to pick, like maybe we need to do something different where we need to think of like what are areas that we want to push ourselves in reading, and then try and think of books that would fit into that, and find a book that like most of us are excited about that would kind of fit that realm.
Or
Because-
we could do like if there's something about all of our readings that's different from the rest of the group. Like Sarah, if you read a very like I know you read a lot
Yeah.
of things that we don't read in terms
Yeah.
of like very specific. Maybe you like focus on choices in that. And
Yeah.
that way it's like not out of your comfort zone, but it's out of everyone else's.
everybody
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
rotate and it's like
I think that's smart.
maybe
The
that.
only thing is like some of you read very similarly, so you might not have like
See, I thought
something
that,
that-
but then Kristen's picks were completely different from anything I would have picked. So I thought we were the most
Because they were outside of my scope. They were like
Okay, that's
pushing
true.
the boundaries.
True, true,
as
They were
opposed to
check-ins,
something
they
she
were
was comfortable
check-outs.
with. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's what I'd really like us to like focus on is like since we set out this goal of like pushing ourselves to read things that are outside of our comfort zone, and like I feel like I think for me like our picks, some of them did end up being very successful for that. Like I never would have had the courage to read the Sun Chronicles because it was such a massive epic, or like whatever you call that, space opera. Like I'd never read a space opera before, and I'd only ever dabbled in sci-fi, and so like that was something that was outside. It was still kind of like within the realm of things that I'd be interested in, but outside of my typical, like what I would say for sci-fi, because like I normally read more like sci fantasy kind of thing. So like I think, yeah, like it did kind of still end up working, but yeah, I'd like to see us all kind of push even further, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like the things that I read that would push you guys out of your comfort zone, it would be too far.
I would
That's
say
always what I'm
I
worried
would
about.
maybe like to push a little less, which is funny because I
Yeah.
feel like they've been very out of my comfort zone and I haven't had a hit yet. So I feel like,
That's
and
fair.
that might be because we're like doing ones that are out of everyone's comfort zone. Whereas I feel like I kind of want to almost dabble in things that like you guys read that I don't. So I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Hey,
I'm
here's
making you read horror.
so
There you
say
go.
if it's my month, it's a month that something that I really like that I think is different than what everyone else reads.
So like,
And you can like also like it's okay to DNF. Like I have DNF'd
Yeah.
2 of our
Yeah.
book club
Yeah.
books,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
when it's not a fit, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Or just like a skip that month. You know what? You know
Yeah.
what, guys?
Forget
Like,
about
this is
The Blood of Stone. What's that book called? Forgot about that book.
Earth of
Song of Blood.
Song
Song of Earth and
we've already forgotten it.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember.
Yeah, because like I guess then if we were each to pick like what's our wheelhouse that is out of everyone else's comfort zone, like what would you say your wheelhouse is? Like
Yeah,
historical fantasy is probably my wheelhouse that's different from you guys, or
I would
steampunk.
have
But I
said
haven't read.
steampunk.
I
Yeah.
haven't read a lot of steampunk in the last couple of years. Like a lot of my steampunk picks are things that I've read a long time ago, but like I would be happy to reread some of them. Like we could read Soulless, and I would love that, and I think that
have
would be
it.
outside of what a lot of you read. Though it's got romance in it as well, like it's steampunk romance. Or like we could read what's the other one? The Tales from the Ketty J. I can't remember what the Retribution Falls. I think that's the first one.
Yeah.
Which is Wooding. What's his first name? Chris Wooding. We could read that. That would also be something. Yeah, he wrote like a more like epic fantasy book.
Emberblade, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but he has a whole series of steampunk
Right.
stuff that's like almost like Firefly.
Oh.
Like Cait, I think you would really
Ah.
enjoy. But yeah, it would be more like out of the comfort zone for everyone else. Like so, like what, like just brainstorming here. Like what books are coming to
Yeah.
your minds?
I have a
folks?
thought too. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm like just thinking out loud. I just thought maybe a possible issue with my idea is that like, are we going too diverse in what we're picking, and it's hard for us to like retain who's interested in sticking with us every month? Which like might
Yeah.
be the thing. Maybe we
Yeah,
want to go
and
so
that
out of
is-
our comfort zone that like we bring new people in, different
Yeah.
people each time. But like, is it so different each time that we're not having
Yeah.
month to month
Repeat
follow?
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree in that I think that it would be nice to pick things even that are like
So maybe it's
a
like
little bit newer or like
expand our
really
bubble.
big but old. Like
Yeah.
like expand the bubble,
Off the
but
top of my
within
head, like
still like a certain
Yeah.
level.
yeah, just to,
like a-
to keep it
You
relevant.
mean I can't make you guys make a contemporary romance?
we could also poll people and see like what
We
are
could do that 1 month, but
Yeah,
like
like-
a new contemporary romance, not from like
we could poll people and see like, do they want to read more diverse genres? Do they want to read more diverse, like, do they want more backlist instead of new stuff that they might not have heard as much, or like different? Like I don't know. Like I
Like
wonder
maybe
what other
maybe
people
we
want for
do
comfort zone.
do a book every month, and maybe we do like something where we alternate, and like if we're not all having to read all the books, because this is the other thing, like we're a big group, there's many of us, so we could do something where like we do like a backlist book and then a new book and alternate, so that we're still, because like I mean it's true, it would be more fun if we had 50 people in the comments who all read the book and 50 people in the Discord. Not that we're unhappy with the few people we have every time, like obviously thank you to those
Love
people
them.
who have been joining us and reading with us, and but I think like the most successful kind of ones we've had were the unofficial, when we read the Guy Gabriel Kay book. Like we had a lot more people join us for that. And I think that's because it is more like recognizable, right?
It's it's recognizable, and it's a recognizable, but something that maybe not everyone has tried before as well.
Yeah. So I think that's where it's kind of like, so what, what's the point? Like maybe some of these other books, maybe we just do like buddy reads that aren't necessarily book club. Maybe we have a section, because like I haven't actually started it yet. And Kristen, I don't know if you've read Fourth Wing now. Like we had talked about doing a buddy read of Fourth Wing kind of unofficially this month.
I think that would be a fun one to discuss, because I think we would have very different like approaches to it.
Yeah. So like, and I'm happy for us to have a discussion next month about Fourth Wing. I am going to read it. I just haven't got to it yet.
Yeah,
and I don't know, Cait, you haven't got to it yet either. So I think we should still discuss that, but
yeah.
Like maybe there are different ways that we can do things. I don't know. It's such a big question mark.
I do think if we have people vote on it, maybe then it's like we're choosing the one they're excited about too.
Yeah.
And it's still, we have control over it to some degree, but then like they're excited to join us. So
I think the hard thing with that is that we don't have a big community built in to vote on things. So like, how do we attract more people to the community
to vote?
Yeah. And like maybe we do need a separate channel for the book checkout that is like where we host these discussions. And then like maybe that's also where we do our, like we've talked a lot about doing like monthly where we just discuss a topic, like just have a channel dedicated to lives.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Think about.
But on the note about the public voting, this is that the next month is actually the public choice pick as well, because there was, we were doing the off months, and there's 6 months that we had to cover and only 5 of us, so we are doing public picks, our sixth book. We're just ruminating on how we would like to roll that out as well, whether or not
we were discussing like putting our past picks up for votes, or just having the public suggest ones, or different ideas there.
All right, so I'm gonna have a shared Gmail account now.
Well, you don't have to have a shared Gmail account. You can there's a way to set it up so that other people can, like, if you set it up, we can talk about those logistics later. I do know how to do that.
Okay, yeah. Sarah's our tech guru.
Yeah, I think past picks is probably the way to go for this one.
Yeah, I think so too.
We have a whole big long list though.
Yeah, maybe narrow it down.
Almost too many. Maybe we narrow it down. Maybe we go through and they're like, okay, if I could put one more back in from my month, it would be blank, and then
we have 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know what Cassie is saying.
Yeah, we could all pick one.
We all have very different thoughts on this, so that would be an interesting one. Like maybe, I wish there was like well, I guess we have Goodreads. We could look through and see if we have any all in common.
Yeah.
Well, like, is that the point? Like, is that really, are we trying to get one that we all enjoy? Because
maybe not,
because like we have different tastes,
because
right?
we
like
if
different
everyone
things.
enjoys something, those are kind of boring discussions.
Yeah.
It is. That's this one's like, there's nothing really.
Book club discussions are the best when there's like
different opinions,
things to talk about,
and discourse.
Yeah. And like, me and Maria need to argue.
Sorry. Hold on.
That's what I live for.
Sarah, you have still not replied to my comments on potential books that we have in common, and I'm dying over here. So, like, did you like those books? Report back later, please. I forget
which
what they
ones?
are. They were ones that you talked about, and I was like, maybe we do have ones in common. Ugh, now I can't even remember them. It's been so long.
Was it in the chat? Where did you?
No,
I don't remember.
Your videos. What was the Thief series? You got one of those that you.
Oh,
love.
I have not read them before. I have not read the series yet.
Fail.
It's been on my TBR, and I didn't buy the first one in the series, but I bought that book because it's beautiful.
Okay.
And I have the first one is on hold at my library. I'm waiting for my turn to read The Thief.
I was so
which
excited.
Is
I was like, maybe that one.
Yeah.
There's a second one that I thought maybe we had in common.
By what is it?
Wayland Turner.
Yeah.
Well, if you end up liking it, that's one of my favorite series of all time. So.
I'm trying to read this comment,
And if it's a veto one, you just don't read it that month. You just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can show up and be like, that sounds awful. In the nosebleeds.
Just like with Sarah at the end of the Lady Trent in the comments, like, that's how it ends? Brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my book came. Unrelated, but my copy of-
Yeah, not Lady Trent,
Yeah.
the
No,
Mask
Lady
of Mirrors book,
Liars.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm technically supposed to be in another live right now, but yeah.
What?
Well, we're
How have
teaching
you managed
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Bad planning on your part.
So reading.
I'm supposed
Sprints?
to be reading like speaking of out of your comfort zone, it's like a reverse harem something.
I saw you
don't know.
comment on Hannah's video, and I was like, the timing doesn't add up. We never
I know,
talked
like,
for less than an
but
hour.
I said I have another. I'll pop in when I pop in because I know that this is not going to end at 3.
When have we ever been short-winded?
Yeah. Now I gotta go.
I know.
Read,
Usually
like,
I'm
a
like,
reverse
hey
harem
guys,
fantasy
it's
romance.
like midnight. I gotta go.
Yeah. And normally we talk after too. I did not plan it properly, but
Yeah. What time is it,
Oh, well.
Kristen, in Denmark right now? How late
It
is
is
it there?
9:20, and it is this bright outside.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That is the lovely view from my spare room. No, it's so bright. And my Poppy chewed my sleeping mask.
Oh.
And even with our blackout, or like even with the curtains, this is my first summer here without the blackout or without the sleeping mask, and it's a problem.
Okay, well, I
could
know
buy
now
one. I could buy
what I
one.
could send you
Yeah.
since I feel like I owe you since we never sent Christmas cards.
I know.
I never
Let's
sent
put
you
each other-
guys.
Let's all
You know what it
send
was?
each other
It was-
Christmas card, and not a single one of us sent a Christmas card. Not one of us.
We all changed addresses.
We all failed.
No, but it was okay. So it was when I was doing those reading vlogs and I was talking about the eucalyptus candies, and Maria was like, "Ooh, I want to try." And I was like, "Oh, I should send them all eucalyptus candy," and then I just like never got around to it. I will.
At least I wasn't alone. I was like, I feel so bad. I didn't send. And then I never.
I know,
sent
and then we
anything.
didn't say anything
know.
for like months, and then it was like, oh yeah.
I genuinely
No,
meant
but-
it. I should have
I even have them.
Same.
Yeah.
Did you? I actually okay. So this is in my head. I was just gonna send the candy, and then I was like, "Oh, I should get cute like book like related cards." And then like
Yeah, I
that
have them.
just never happened.
You step too far. Yeah, it's too much.
I went and
The
actually
effort.
have the cards, but I'll do it this year.
I always
Like
say I need to
Christmas
send them,
in
like,
July?
November.
Christmas in July.
That's a good idea. That's a cute idea.
Oh man.
All right.
Okay,
Well, some definitely some choices to be determined.
So, like, if you're not already on the Discord, if you're watching this for some random reason and you're not on our Discord, hopefully it's linked down below and you can go.
It
And
is.
then that is where we will make decisions and polls and also subscribe to all of our channels because we can also put things on our community tabs. Yes.
Yes. Now I gotta go to a different live. So.
Thanks for hanging out with us, everyone.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, thank you for everyone who came live. And if you're watching the replay, comment down below what you thought of the book. And if you have any strong feelings about how you would like to choose the book for the community pick for the month of August, we are gonna, because we're so late on this one, we're gonna do it in August. Will be the next month that we're reading a book together.
Maybe we'll try and get the live for the end of that month instead of so we can actually read in August.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.